Today we meet a true citizen of the world as we chat with Kiwi Jason Stevens as he shares his unique journey from a supply chain corporate background to becoming the CEO of Wayfairer Travel. He discusses the transition from founder ownership, the rapid growth of the company, especially during COVID, and the importance of maintaining a strong company culture whilst navigating the challenges of leadership and founder dynamics. Jay emphasises the significance of personal experiences in travel, the role of technology in enhancing customer service, and the commitment to sustainability in the travel industry. He concludes with insights on the transformative power of travel and his passion for creating memorable experiences for his clients. I hope you enjoy. Good morning, Jay. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, so we're going to have a bit of fun today, I'm sure, after meeting you a few times. So you are currently Chief Exec of Wayfairer Travel, which we're going to hear lots about. You're allowed to plug it because it's just so exotic and exciting. But obviously, I've had lots of guests on the podcast now. I'm very lucky. I've met lots of different people. And lots of them will have had a diverse background as to how they've got to where they've got to. But I think yours could pip it as the last place you'd think you'd start to get to where you've got to. So would you mind giving us 5 minutes, Jay, just on and how you're here today talking to me?
I will. I'll go all the way back, and it was a funny old story. So I left high school, headed off to university because I thought that was the right thing to do. And about a week into it, it wasn't the right thing for me. I wasn't scholastic. I wasn't into it. I was surfing more than I was attending lectures, and it just became very obvious that my parents weren't going to foot that bill for too much longer, and I'd better go and find a job. So my parents, being my parents, thought they'd help me out and found me a job in banking, which lasted about a month before I was climbing up the walls. Managed to ironically find myself a job in supply chain at one of the smaller supply chain companies in New Zealand. So they were, back in the day, they were the agency for UPS, and I was the tea boy. So I was making cups of teas for the bosses, clearing the fax machines. Some of the listeners won't even know what a fax machine is, but clearing the fax machines and just general duties. One thing led to another. I was the sort of kid that always wanted to find solutions, so things worked out pretty well. Moved out of the office boy into doing some customs work, then into operations. From operations, I fell into sales. Sales got me offshore. So I was 24 years old when I left New Zealand. First posting was in Dubai, with an incredible leader who's now actually the top CEO at DHL globally, and just a great person to have the opportunity to work with, and learn so much from. So I went through the logistics industry, mostly in sales roles, some operational, backward and forward, leadership roles. Got out of the logistics industry, still doing supply chain activities, but working in the manufacturing side of things. Ended up back with DHL at the board level. So I was on the Asia Pacific Management Board and bumped into a guy that was a founder, one of two founders of a travel company called Wayfairer Travel. And they were selling basically safaris to British travellers that were travelling to Kenya. It was a fairly small business, but it had some really unique things. And 6 months of knowing there was a question, we can't grow, we need an investor. For some reason, they thought I was an investor. As it turned out, I was able to invest, but there was some conditions and some opportunities. Those led me to investing. So 2017, I invested in Wayfairer Travel. The investment was based on me becoming a third or equal owner, and I was what you'd call or deem an investor advisor. The business was doing 400,000 per annum when I invested. The following year, we were doing 1.7 million. The year after that, I was on full time. I'd become the CEO. We'd put a few things in place that made sense, and we were doing £1 million a month by then, pre-COVID. Hello, COVID. So at that point in
this
time,
comes up in all of my chats. There's always some people, like the business we were talking about earlier, Pastor Evangelist, loved COVID. Other people, not so much. Never mind from a personal point of view.
Funnily enough, people kept buying travel during COVID. And we built up a phenomenal book of business. So we had over £5 million of business that booked during COVID. Some of it traveled. And it was interesting to see which travelers were the first to travel. And I was shocked. So this was when we actually learned that the American clients were actually a lot more adventurous than people were giving them credit for. And I think COVID may have been a facilitator to that, all that pent up, stuck inside. And they wanted to go further than just, across a few states or down to Mexico or wherever the traditional travel destinations have been. Americans had started to travel more, but this just changed. The dynamics changed on a massive scale. Thank you to the American clients. They traveled quickly. Everyone else came back online. We had a great book of business, and it continued to grow from there. So, yeah, I I fell into travel from a supply chain background.
What do you think those two founders saw in you? I mean, did they realize they had weaknesses, or was it just a connection of personalities and went from there?
Personalities. So I got on quite well with one of the founders. He was Bangkok based. I was Bangkok based. I'm guessing, because these conversations haven't happened, so these are assumptions, but they saw a guy that was sitting on the board of a Fortune 500 company that probably had some connections. They were smart enough young guys to do what they'd done to see, well, this guy must bring something to the table, but he also brings the cash that we don't have.
Right. So, yeah, sometimes it can be quite binary.
It is what it is, as they say.
Brilliant. So, Jay, when you joined the guys, obviously you've just talked some fantastic figures of how it grew very quickly.
Yes.
Was that, obviously we talked about COVID, but was that because you opened up markets, or you just opened up, as in markets to take people on holiday, or destinations, or was it a combination of both that you brought?
It was that and a few other things as well. So when I originally came in, like any young company with a couple of young founders, they were doing what they knew. So there was spreadsheets for doing accounting, and there wasn't a CRM in sight. So we put a accounting package in place very quickly. So a SaaS product called Xero.
Yeah.
Great for any small business.
Good Kiwi business. It
is a good Kiwi business. And I only learnt that after we'd actually selected the product, which was ironic. There was no nepotism to country there whatsoever. And when I learnt that it was Kiwi, I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah, of course it is.
We do too. We're isolated, and it makes us think a little bit differently. Put in a Xero accounting package, brought in a CRM very quickly. So that was Zoho, which was a sort of entry-level, manageable on cost, but quite intelligent in terms of its capabilities and what you could do relative to the cost versus the returns. So all of a sudden, you've gone from a company that was working off a spreadsheet with two young guys to a company that had an accounting package and a CRM with some okay lead channels, and then we started to open up the lead channels. In parallel to that, we opened up new destinations. We didn't realize at that point in time that the market was as big as what it was outside of the UK. So when I originally got in, I understood the source or the origins of the industry, who founded it, why it existed, and everything led back to the UK, which was interesting. And there were leads coming in, but they were small percentages relative to total in terms of our lead sources. What we also did was we automated absolutely everything. So we only ever ended up hiring sales, after sales, and a little bit of in-house marketing. Everything else was able to be either successfully handled through automation or outsourced. So we kept the business incredibly lean. Guess what happens when COVID hits and you're lean? Scaling down is just as easy as scaling up.
Yeah. So you can change from that point of view.
Survive.
And the two founders, what had been their passion to start the business in the first place? And were you able to build on that when you came on board?
Yeah, for sure. So they were both working in travel and frustrated with where they were working. They had good ethics in terms of they wanted to do something that was very focused on the communities, the destination communities. So one of them had a deep passion for Africa. So that's how it all sort of got kicked off. like any business, there was luck. So the first supplier that they really worked with was the guy that was actually the founder or the person that invented conservancies in Africa, and had built up the camps and the product, and it was an incredible product. And when we did the things that we did and accelerated the growth, all of a sudden we quickly became his biggest room night client, which then reciprocated into great rates, which then reciprocated into being able to grow faster. And it was, it was a vicious cycle turned into a victorious cycle in a very, very short period. And you were able to build on that. And with that momentum, you then start saying, well, you can only sell a safari trip to Kenya to a UK person 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 at best.
Yeah.
What's the future of this? And is there a future of this outside of this? Explore, test, fail, made a lot of mistakes, hurt ourselves a lot. But in those mistakes, you have the learnings and you have some luck as well. The whole thing with COVID opened up the American client base to us.
Yeah.
And ironically, one of my biggest pet peeves was we were taking money off clients in GBP and we were paying suppliers in USD. And I hated the volatility and risk of currency. So one of the things I was chasing was FX mitigation. Guess what? Grow your US client base faster than your GBP client base.
Money in, money out, yeah.
And you've just hedged your entire business model.
That's fascinating. And so in terms of that growth, you opened up, let's go past COVID. How has the growth been since then? Because like you say, I know you talked about the US having that pent-up travel, but there's been a general bit where we've all gone, we only probably lost a year of travel, but we all felt like we'd been terribly wronged, and we all like, right, I need to explore. Has that growth continued post-COVID?
It's accelerated. So we're now sitting, so pre-COVID, 1.7 million per annum. We'll clock in at around about 12 million per annum this year.
Incredible. That's serious growth, isn't it?
It is, and it's exciting.
And have you managed to continue to widen your client database, if that makes sense, client locations away from the States?
Massively. Yeah. So we are truly global now. We do have a tendency to focus on the US clients, and there's a few logical reasons for that. They've got the money to spend. They are a bit more time poor and a lot less cost conscious. So Americans tend to know what they want, and they're more than happy to, if you present the right product, there's never a discussion on price. And they're also incredibly appreciative of good product and good service delivery. So we love working with the US clients. Doesn't mean that we're ignoring the rest of the world. It's just, you've got a big market. We're a very, very small fish at this time in a massive pond. Pick where your quickest opportunities are relative, and then get smarter on the rest of it at a later stage when you've given yourself the greatest chances of success.
Yeah, it gives you that breathing space, doesn't it, to build?
It does. It really does.
And so is that coming from, they tend to have shorter holidays, don't in the US, like, literally a couple of weeks a year.
Bingo.
So they just go, I'm having the time of my life.
Pretty much that. And look, that's a percentage of the clientele. And then when you get into our space, business owners and people with real money, they determine their holidays. But there's still, the American working culture is a hard working culture. I've got a lot of respect for it, and we've learned a lot from them, and we've started hiring Americans because of it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, Jay, about your transformation from pretty much, all right, be it you were a rebel in it, but pretty much corporate world, as corporate as you can get with some of these, like you say, Fortune 500 businesses, to suddenly you being unleashed on this growing, fledgling business with 2 entrepreneurs that have got a love of the product. And like you say, like we all do when we start our own businesses, we don't really know what we're doing. We just have a passion that we're trying to do. So how did you land, and then how have you grown with your leadership style?
It's interesting. So I'll go back into when I was in the corporate world. One of the issues for me in the corporate world was I was the misfit. And I was the misfit that was sent to fix broken things, succeeded. So I was the necessary misfit that you tolerated. And that enabled me just to keep, continuing to succeed. I did reach the board level at Asia Pacific. I think because I kept delivering, and as much as it was uncomfortable, and I never felt comfortable, and I was at a point when this came up where I was just like, I've reached this level and I've never been unhappier.
Yeah.
And the inability to make change when you get into these very senior, and I don't want to speak ill of DHL. DHL is an incredible company. Everything that's a success in Wayfairer was my grounding at DHL. Absolutely. And I was lucky. I was in before it was a public company. So I was back in the private days, but I went through it and it became a stronger company, a better company, incredible company. So I do want to take note that as much as I was a misfit, it was more me than the company. That was an amazing company. Now you take that misfit and invests into a company where I was, and I don't know if this was instinct, luck, or maybe a combination of the two, where I said I wanted to come in very much as an equal because I saw them as founders. I'm not a founder person. I'm the kind of person that wants to add value. So I was very clear about equality. Very quickly, they pushed that they wanted me to be elevated to the CEO, which was, I resisted at first, and then it became necessary, and I realized it was necessary. They knew it was necessary, so kudos to them. And then you go through the founder versus the investor who's taken on the CEO role, and there's where it starts to get really interesting, because they've got founder aspirations, and one of the founders had exit aspirations. The other founder had aspirations of greatness without putting in maybe the work that achieves greatness.
Yeah.
And founders are interesting animals, because you've got to look at the number of companies that are started by founders that don't succeed. You've got to look at the number of companies founders started that then get taken away from the founders and go on to success, and everything in between. There's some really, really hard lessons you need to learn to working with founders. And I would caution anyone to come in with their eyes so wide open, so wide open. Equality doesn't work, especially with founders. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's the truth.
And so how did you deal with that then? How did you navigate through that?
With great difficulty. Well, so one of them made it very easy. Unfortunately, one of them decided that taking money out of the company without permission was a good idea. So that ended in his exit. And that was all done above board. When you steal, there are consequences to it.
Yeah.
And the other founder has exited through a natural attrition process, gone on to, he wants to work as opposed to the pressure was something that he didn't enjoy. And the company grew way too quick, and to his credit, he realized that pressure was too much for him.
I think that's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, you go back to your points on founders, and in where I am, we've gone through that where we've acquired businesses, and like not everybody is right for what the growth and the bigger thing that you become part of, and it's not a weakness. It's just we've all got, like I'm really good at starting stuff, get really bored when it's running. Other people look at what I do and go, well, how do you do that? I want to run it, and the skills are needed. The real superpower, let's call it, between both parties, understanding, we'll use our rugby analogy, is when that ball is passed.
Yes.
And
who's the best person to take it? Are you passing it into the backs, or is it being recycled in the forwards?
Always the forwards. Sorry, no.
If you want to score tries, you've got to get it out wide.
Yeah, eventually. But it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because people, you've got to be very self-aware, because you've got to understand the skills you had to kick this thing off with a passion. Yes. Aren't going to be the skills that take that from 400,000 to 12 million type of thing. It's so different on such a scale, and as you open up, especially when it's hard enough doing it in one market where you can say you're in New Zealand or you're in UK, you can understand the market backwards, you can literally go meet your clients if you want. Yeah. So suddenly doing that on a global scale and delivering on a global scale as well. It's not as though you're bringing everybody into Kenya still, are you? You're going everywhere.
Not at all. And there's some things as well that, I hope I never have to do this again, because, you know, the long game is to play Wayfairer and take it all the way. So my hope is I won't be dealing with founders again. And for me, it was my first time dealing with founders as well.
Yeah.
You know, I have founded businesses that failed. So I've had my failures as a founder, and they failed for multiple reasons. And they're the scars that I wear that enabled me to get to a place. And when I came into the business, again, I made some mistakes, and it's mistakes are okay. In fact, encourage mistakes. Mistakes are actually pivotal to the growth and success of any business. And we actually have a culture of encouraging mistakes. Otherwise, we're not moving quick enough and we're not challenging ourselves enough. Founders tend to have a slightly different, to my experience, and that's not just Wayfairer, that's other founders that I've had conversations with, or other people that I've had conversations with that have dealt with founders. They have a little bit of the emperor wears no clothes thing going on, and they are a bit, yeah, some of them, not all, that's an unfair statement, but there is some elements of not as much self-awareness. Also,
Yeah.
to be fair to them, they don't have the breadth of experience, because a lot of them have either come out of a job where they saw an opportunity and were smart and clever and went after something. So there's not that breadth of experience to pull from. So, you know, you've got to look at all the various moving parts. And I think the biggest thing for me that I would say to anyone, both on the founder side and on my side, early investor, be very, very aware of both sides' shortcomings, and be very, very aware that they will come to a point where they will be counterintuitive to the future, and know how to navigate to either come to concessions that you're never going to agree. And that either means you're never going to agree and someone's going to take charge, or you're never going to agree and someone's going to have to exit. It usually ends up in the exits. But again, if there was an agreement early on, which is golden, have early on agreements so you can work to those agreements.
I think that's a really good point, and understanding if a founder has a role, what that role is, and let them stick to it, so they still feel like they're making a difference. Because I think that's what happens with a lot of people is they go, "Oh, hang on, Jay's coming, he's doing that better than me. We're growing there. We never did that. We've got a deal here." And part of it is there can be embarrassment nearly sometimes, isn't it? Not just
There's a little bit of imposter syndrome starts to creep in, and I witnessed that. The other thing is, never let a founder have a job title called founder. It's not a job. What do you contribute? What's the job? What do you do for your own personal I contribute if your title's founder? You can be the founder, but you've got to have a job. You need a job inside of the company. So either the founder's great at ideas. So ideas typically lend themselves to marketing or even strategy if they've got that wiring inside them. Or they're people persons. Get them doing the recruiting and the hiring, and never have an HR department in small companies. Keep the HR out, but have someone who's passionate about people. And if the founder's passionate about people, what a great way to hire. Or if they're smart on technology or finance or whatever, get a wheelhouse, get them in it, get them excelling at it. Because the mistake that we had on our side was once the first one had gone out, the other founder called himself founder. That's not a job.
Yeah. But you do that, don't you? And then you look at it and go, right, that's why it's going wrong.
And it was where it went wrong.
And so in terms of the original culture that they built within the business, has that evolved, or have you still managed to keep that but just turbo it onto the new markets and new customers?
The founding principle of looking after communities in the destination and doing travel that's based on doing good is the absolute core, and that will never ever change. It's what I bought into. It's what makes me get up in the morning. And the difference is it's no longer part of the marketing. We do it because as the culture, it's what motivates us to deliver great product to our clients. It's not a marketing tool. And that may be the difference, that it was a cool thing to market. And that's a founder way of doing things. And it depends. A lot of companies are very successful at using ethical, responsible, and it's on brand. Wayfair's not. We do what we do because we believe that we can actually, we deliver the most incredible experiences. And that's the whole ethos. So we hire people that are passionate about clients, and delivering incredible experiences. And to give you an example and to put this into context, our client reviews are posted in our everyone chat through automation. And in that automation, so you get the review and the full review's there, and it will show pictures if the clients are taking pictures. So we get a lot of reviews. We're getting reviews faster than all of our peers. Not only are we getting the reviews, the emotion and the language and the thanks and the gratitude for the extra miles that we go and the special things that we do for these clients. You don't need to market if you're getting that.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because
that's what feeds you.
There's a terrible assumption that when you're dealing with that high end of the market, that they are assuming a level of service and experience that they pay for. So they're a bit like, well, of course it will be incredible. But the fact that you're managing to usurp that and they're waxing lyrical about the business, that is something quite special.
It is. And that's something that we do. That is the new culture, being special. And that's what we hire to be special. We manage to be special. We engage with our clients to be special. Our product is special. That is the culture.
Maybe spend just a couple of minutes on where are you seeing these growing markets now, and whet our appetite for our holiday plans, unfortunately, for next year now, unless we do some winter travelling. But where are you seeing? What
Interestingly, we get a lot of what we call last-minute bookings, and the highest number of last-minute bookings actually come between now and November, even into December for travel in December. We see a real flux. Yeah, it was something that caught me off guard, and we had to really change the way that we put product together to ensure that we could deliver at the level and quality that we want. So, yeah, just as a sidebar, that is there.
With a short lead time.
Lead time, certain supply that can facilitate it and still deliver on the ground, the ability to accelerate receiving payments, getting payments to suppliers, some trust elements in terms of, hey, look, these payments are coming through, you're going to be getting them, but the client will have checked in. Yeah. Destinations, God, it's a moving goalpost, because talk to me on a Monday and I can tell you 10 things that are happening that are amazing in Japan. And Japan is very topical at the moment because we're about to really take ownership of some white space. So the ski, snowboard and culture element of Japan is so untapped. It's one of the fastest growing destinations globally right now. The number of US travelers going to Japan is going through the roof. Brits are starting to go to Japan. The world's going to Japan. They're all doing it in the summer and sort of the peak season months. Not massive amounts of skiing being done there or snowboarding. The Aussies go there a bit, but they go to one location, and it's not somewhere where we would send our clients because it's
Aussie on the hill.
Aussie on the hill. You might as well stay home as opposed to go to Aussie on the hill. We've got some really unique. There's 650 resorts. So look, Japan with the snow element is topical right now, and it's white space that we're entering. Indian safaris. Changes in what's going on in Africa, where the product's changing and the shoulder season is now way more exciting than the migration period, because the shoulder season, with the resurgence of a lot of the conservation efforts, you're getting incredible wildlife without the crowds. So our shoulder season business is prolific and it's amazing, and we get great reviews, and we're also getting to the point where we're trying to encourage our clients to get outside of the peak season travel periods to have a better experience and have more enjoyment.
You're not like in a queue going through a park. You sort of like...
There you go. And we don't like contributing to congestion and problems on the ground, so we're very careful about doing that. South America's blowing up. Antarctica's sort of fallen off, but for us it's something that, anywhere that falls off the radar gets very interesting to us. I'm heading down to Morocco next week because it's fallen off the radar, and Morocco's an incredible destination. So it's looking at ways that we can reignite a destination for our clients because they're going to get better experiences.
And are you seeing, obviously there's quite a lot of unstable geopolitical issues around the world at the moment? And do they impact, because everybody's aware of them so much quicker, do they impact you much faster than they probably did when you first got involved with the business?
They don't, and I'll tell you the reason why. We've built trust, and we've
Okay.
built a product that deserves to be trusted. And we're very, very, very cautious and careful at where we put our clients, how we put our clients, what our product's like. You know, you're not arriving in a country and wondering how you get to where you're going. You're arriving in a country and you're taken care of you're actually taken care of before you even leave home. My team does a whole heap of work, explains everything. So we have a pre-trip structure and process that people don't turn up wondering anything. They turn up being taken care of, and they leave being taken care of, and they're spoken to afterwards to make sure they were taken care of. And is there anything we can learn to do better for their future trips or other clients?
Okay, that's fascinating. So you sort of can stay ahead of that and really counter problems, as destinations face
Product
them.
quality is non-negotiable for Wayfairer.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
So in terms of the travel industry, there's a lot of tech being come into it, from CRM through automations and bits and pieces.
Yep.
But it sounds like you're balancing a lot of your service is done by your teams, as in like this, talking to people. And so are you seeing, are they good bedfellows, those two, or are you trying to over deliver on the people service and the personal interaction?
They're the best bedfellows you could ever want, because the tech is the enabler to give more time to the people. So my promise to my team is, tell me everything that you hate about your job, everything that bores you, anything that you find mundane or repetitive, and the tech will do that for you. You spend all your time with the clients. So anything that you're doing that's taking away from time with a client, we will fix, and we will take it away, and we'll give it to a computer. So you spend all of your time with the person that matters the most, the client. And that's never going to change. Tech's an enabler to get a higher human touch in our business model.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not to remove the human eventually. It's to actually give them
Elevate
more
them.
time and elevate their importance
Give
in
them a
that
better
sales process.
Hey, who wants to come and process invoices and type on keystrokes when you could talk to clients about something, an amazing trip or a safari, or, hiking through glaciers in the Patagonias, or snowboarding down some of the best snow that you've ever experienced in your life because you just didn't know that Japan's snow conditions trump anywhere else in the world. I want my team doing that 100% of their time. They want to be doing that 100% of the time. So we give them that. What happens inside our company? The culture's great. The people are happy. Guess what that means? The clients love us.
They feel it and sense it.
They
So
do.
where you've obviously got a global footprint in both sides of the business. So you must have those teams locally, because obviously you can't say that and then, oh, sorry, I'm going to be in North America. So have you got teams dotted all around the world then?
We are truly global.
Yeah.
Let's go around the map. Currently, I'm commuting out of New Zealand for my daughter's in high school there. My head of legal's in Australia. I've got people in Vietnam, Pakistan. I've got a team in Thailand, Germany, Spain, UK, US, Mexico, Canada. Have I missed anywhere?
I'm going to say, careful you don't miss anyone.
I'm just trying to remember if I've missed, but adding all the time. And the way that we've built the business, a location has zero relevance.
Yeah.
We will hire you wherever you're based if you're the best person for the job that we're looking for.
Yeah. And so how do you knit that together from a leadership point of view?
It's a lot of hard work. You are disproportionately working on the engagement, the communication, the amount of time that you're talking to the team. And my leadership team are high engagement. And my engagement with my leadership team is disproportionate to any other job I've worked in, which is also a beautiful part of this business, because I love people. People get things done. If your people are working with people they like and getting things done, it doesn't work too bad.
It's interesting what that breeds as a culture, isn't it? Which is fascinating, and a great credit to you. So I
It's
suppose
been a
that's
lot of
where
hard work.
I was about to say, it's not easy to do that, but the results are obviously, well, they're speaking in your figures. But I also suppose that's where you probably borrowed the learnings from working for big global companies, because they're ahead of us to understand this is how you do it. This is how you set up a structure that works in a geographical location anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Look, you learn both ways, right? You learn what frustrates you immensely when you're in the corporate world. And if you learn that and don't bring it into a business, if you're lucky enough to own a business, that's powerful.
Yeah,
You can do as much good by not doing the bad things as well as what you learn in terms of the good things.
yeah. No, it is. You're right. It's completely. But I think what you realise as you grow, you could have different challenges because you'll come across even new cultures and ways of working as you open up new destinations or you open up new offices to serve customers and clients. So you're never
We
going to get
embrace that.
bored, Jay, are you? You're never going to get
Oh no,
bored.
no. But we embrace that, right? And that's one of the things that I've done very, very aggressively is really taking people from anywhere and learning with them, but also enabling them and supporting them to know, back to what I said earlier, it is so critical to have a culture where mistakes are seen as part of the path. If anything, in our organization, mistakes are pushed for because our greatest breakthroughs come when we're pushing and we're making mistakes. And if you're pushing and you're not making mistakes, how hard are you pushing, or how much breadth have you got to really find success or find something that's going to move the needle more than the usual incremental gains?
Yeah, very true. It is. You got it. It's like, I mean, it's like cliches, isn't it? Outside your comfort zone and all that, but that's where you learn, and that's where you move on much quicker.
They're cliches for a reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I've in my past done a lot of work in the travel sector, and we ran a couple of seminars on it recently and had businesses. They were mainly UK European businesses,
Hmm.
but again, the big hot subject for all of those was the rightful challenge that travel has in terms of sustainability.
Yes.
And I've done my homework and read up about you guys. It's something you are really taking seriously, aren't you, as you develop the product?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, right? If you try and bite off too big a piece of the pie at the start, you're setting yourself up for some real difficult challenges. So you've got to be sensible about where you can contribute. You know, are you going to stop people that go on expensive vacations getting on planes? No, you're not. So use the technology and find out which flights contribute the less, and look at opportunities to work on education, communication, working with downstream supply. Take the pieces where you can make a difference and then have a bigger goal at the end of it where you can really move the needle. There's something very, very personal to me that I've got a target for the point where we hit 100 million in revenue for the business. There's a whole model where we will start working with um, a piece, a part of the world that to me, I think so underserviced. It needs so much help. And if done right, and if I can get enough people to the table on this, we could really, truly make a difference. So do what we can now. And we do a lot. We do a lot relative to our size. Be sensible about it. We don't market it. I've got a real thing about, telling people you're good is disingenuous, and it doesn't mean you're that good. If you're doing it because it's inherently who you are and it's in your culture and you recruit that way, you find suppliers that way, your clients will gravitate to that. And even if they don't, coming into your ecosystem, they're exposed to it. Something rubs off somewhere. So at some point in time, so don't try and boil the ocean. Be
Yeah,
focused, contribute, do good.
yeah,
Just do good. And that, ironically, isn't happening anywhere near enough or as much as it should. And it's actually the simplest thing because people get so confused with, the big promise or the big goal or the big everything. The small things get missed. Do the small things, do them well. And as you get to the next stage, look at what you can do and always be looking at that next, but have an end goal and make it a big one. Our end goal's huge.
yeah. And in terms of when you are delivering your product on at the destination,
Yeah.
I'm right in believing that is done through local, isn't it?
only.
You engage with people who really know and truly understand the destination, so that you put what you spend into that economy, not coming back to you all the time.
100% back in, and Wayfairer is 100% reinvestment business into product technology to enable the salespeople to give a better experience to the client, so the clients can keep spending, so we can keep putting money into the destinations.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because it's just people see that, like you say, that unfortunately the planes, if you look at it from that, the planes are going to fly. So it's a case of, like, to your point, how do you mitigate it? Pick the right ones. But then, they talk always about the environment, but it's not. It's about how can you help, like you talked about, the Japanese offer you're trying to improve, talked about Morocco, and then how do you help the economy and your local economy? Because
if you upgrade them, Steve, there's so much more that they can do. If you look at the camps that we work with around Africa, most of them are on solar, pure solar. A large majority of them are producing and reusing all of their waste. There's a lot of them that are growing their own products for the use in the restaurants and the meals and those types of things. All of the guides are local from tribal. Most of them are trying to move to battery-powered vehicles. There's no one there that's not willing or wanting to contribute to being better, but if you're not giving them the right clients that are spending the right amount of money. So again,
to help,
that's when we say, bring the right client that's spending, and that money goes back into their businesses, and that improves. And we go out of this vicious and we create a victorious cycle.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And like you say, as you grow, you can make more impact positively.
You can. And there's a piece that we'll get and we'll do, and we'll never tell anyone about it, but it will move the needle because it's being enabled by a commitment to investing locally.
Yeah, I'll have to watch your space for that one. So if you were to pick one destination that you would insist that you've been to, because I assume you got a few perks of travelling in the last few years. If you were to say, look, you've got to pick one, that you think we should all experience once in our lifetime if we can, where would that be? You can't say New Zealand.
No, I wouldn't say New Zealand, not because it isn't a phenomenal destination. No, it is a phenomenal destination, but it's nepotism. The Patagonias. Has to be the Patagonias. I was horse riding with my, at the time, 14-year-old daughter. Christmas Day, we took in a local Argentinian barbecue for Christmas lunch. Completely disconnected from devices and everything. And that trip transformed my relationship with my daughter like nothing ever else could have. Nothing.
Wow.
The scenery, the environment, the people, the experience. It is a phenomenal destination. I could give you 5 others straight after that are equal to it. And I think travel is a lot about the personal experience. So our role is to enable those opportunities and give those destinations that create that to happen for other people. And we hear it a lot. We hear it a lot from our clients that come back and say, you've done this for us, and as a family this was, and our kids have had this and they would never have ever thought of this. And we get it all the time. And that's what fuels me. It puts the fire in my belly to do more, to get to more people, to create this opportunity so more people can have those stories to tell.
That's interesting. So you're seeing, like, a lot of people would have said, "Oh, Patagonia, that's the sort of on the adventure side of travel." But you're seeing families going there and sharing that a lot more now. I.e., people are being much more adventurous. Yeah.
And look, adventure travel, everyone gravitate. Well, not everyone, but it's an easy one to gravitate and define things. All the definitions need to be thrown out. Travel is travel, and you can curate travel. We can curate travel so it fits an entire, we do multi-generational trips where the entire family has their own parts, but they also have their collective. You're not going to get 75, 80-year-old grandparents having a great time doing a 4-hour horse trek. But you can put them in a wagon and get them to the same location, and they'll talk about it equally, if not more, because of the age and seeing the kids riding around and all this type of things. So it's all about the curation and understanding. And this is where we are very, very passionate about what we do. It's understanding the client. And this is my part. Take the nonsense, take the admin, take the downtime away from the travel consultants so they can do what they do best. Curate these trips, understanding the clients at deeper levels to hit those things that are going to make it transformative. And travel is transformative. You know, you've just heard me talk about a trip with my daughter, and it's not the only one. We were with some 13 mountain-back gorillas at 1,200 meters in Uganda, watching the alpha male and the next male down in the community fighting it out 50 meters away from us. And my daughter's 13 at the time. You know, how do you pick between that and the Patagonias?
Yeah.
You put me on the spot, so I had to go with one.
Yeah.
I
got away with two now. You've got two, yeah.
And I could keep going, and this is my point. Because of what we do, we create those. And part of my job is to go and find those things, as well as my team go and find those things. You've got enough of us finding those things and taking the time, because we've got the time to listen to the client and understand them at a deeper level. You create those trips, and that's not happening. That's not happening everywhere. There's other companies doing it. I think we do it as well, if not better than most.
Yeah. And as you look forward now, as we come to sort of the end of the recording, as you look forward, you talked obviously about how you evolved the business from the founder. How could you see the business growing and your role growing? Can you see, is there a future exit, or is it like, are you loving this so much as far as you can see into the future, as we all can? You're there in the middle of it all.
I've got two challenges in life. One, what the hell do I do if I don't work? The other challenge is I don't work. I don't have a job anymore. I have a passion.
Yeah.
How do you walk away from a passion? I don't think you do, and I don't think you can. There's a joke, and I don't know how much. I think they always say there's a half truth in every joke. I think this is a full truth, and it's not a joke, but it sounds funny. We always talk about it in the executive team. They'll be wheeling me out in a box and putting me in the furnace, and the other guy will have to come in and the seat will still be warm. I don't know how you exit this. I don't have any thoughts on exiting this. I've had offers and I've turned them down because and whatever the number, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because how do you go and do this again without going through all of the hard stuff to get here? And I'm not afraid of the hard stuff, but I've got it to a point where, and doing more and getting to more people fuels me more than anything's ever fueled me. And what comes next, I'm sure, will be another set of opportunities where we can do something better, different, more interesting, and that'll just drive me again. So no exit, not a chance.
No. Interesting as well. I can see the passion and feel the passion, and hopefully people will hear it too. It's around people, isn't it? And like you say, as you evolve, it will be, how else can I work with people? And I think that's...
How do we get to more people to let them be lucky enough to have the experiences that I've had and I've been able to get to other clients and my team has? Because my team gets to enjoy these trips as well, right? That's one of the big attractions for working for Wayfairer. And my view is, the more that I can do, the more that I can get in, the more that I can invest so my team can travel more, so they can do even better. And again, we're back into that creating such a victorious
flywheel,
cycle.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And there is this whole, positivity. It's fact. You build an environment of goodness and it pays back everywhere.
Yeah. Energy is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Especially when it's a positive one. Yeah.
It is.
I'm going to send you my CV after this, buddy. Right, final question, because as usual, I get told off. I've gone over time.
No worries.
You have had a wonderfully varied background, and I could pick up on lots of stuff, but when you kicked off let's just focus on your wonderful Wayfairer journey, what would you tell young Jay? Although not long ago, but I'm sure there's a lesson in there, a killer lesson that you'd love to have told yourself that maybe would have saved a little bit of the heartache and pain from time to time.
Honest truth, I wouldn't change a thing. Change a thing. You've got to go through it. You've got to go through all of it. There's no shortcuts. I tell myself, be prepared for some terrible stuff. Be
Right,
prepared.
okay.
Be prepared, because some
So don't be
terrible stuff's
naive.
going to...
Don't just think this is all going to be lovely. We're all going to be great. Best
It's not.
mates. Yeah.
It's not. There's days where it is really, really hard. It's hard. And that would be the only thing I'd tell my earlier self. Be ready for the hardness. And whatever you think it's going to be 10x worse than what you think.
Yeah. And if you're aware, you're prepared, aren't you?
And you do get to a point where you have enough of it that you develop an inner strength, and then you get to a point where you do have the self-confidence and the self-belief. Nothing will knock you over. You'll always find a solution. Every problem has a solution. In the earlier days, it doesn't always feel like that. There is a tipping point, and it happened for me probably about not that long ago, 12 to 14 months ago. And it didn't just happen. It was an evolution over a period. And as these things, and I'd be like, I've got this. I've got that. Not with arrogance, always with humility, but just a belief and a calmness to say, I can do this. I will do this. And the next one will come. There'll never not be a next problem or a next heartache or a next upset or a next something that you didn't contemplate or would ever contemplate. It'll keep coming. And I think anyone that thinks it's not going to shouldn't get into business, because you're delusional.
You're delusional the other way. I think we'll leave it on that wonderful life lesson, because you're right. It is just, it's how you deal with it and turn it into a positive, isn't it?
Bounce back fast.
Jay,
and always come back harder than you went down.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, Jay, thank you so much for sharing. That's been so interesting, and I will look forward to skiing in Japan with you in the winter.
Absolutely.
Take care, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, Steve. Appreciate it.